Money doesn't buy happiness. That's what people say right before they hand their whole life over to someone else's decision. Powerlessness isn't sad. It's just quiet. And quiet is the most expensive thing in the world. You are standing in a glass conference room on the top floor of a building you don't own, but somehow, everyone in this room is waiting for you to speak first. Nobody checks their phone. Nobody interrupts. A man twice your age nods before you've even finished the sentence. Rewind 2 decades, and this same room wouldn't have let you pass the lobby. Something happened between then and now. Not luck. Not a lottery ticket. Something slower and colder and far more deliberate. We'll get back to that room. First, you need to see where it started. At the bottom, power isn't something you have. It's something other people have over you. Your landlord has power. Your manager has power. The machine at the gas station that declines your card twice before it finally goes through, that has power too. You check your balance the way some people check a pulse. Quickly, nervously, hoping it's still there. A late fee of $9 can ruin your whole week, not because of the money, but because of what it says. It says you are behind. It says someone else gets to decide what happens to you next. You smile at your boss a little longer than you need to. You laugh a little harder at a joke that wasn't funny. Not because you're weak. Because you understand the math nobody says out loud. The person who needs the money, less always has the power. And right now, you need it more than anyone in the room. Derek, 2 cubicles over, leases a car he can't afford and calls it confidence. You watch him do it and say nothing because you already know how that story ends. Rule number 1 of financial power: the less you need someone, the less they can do to you. Something changes. Not in your income, in your posture. You still don't have much, but you have enough to say no once in a while, and once in a while is everything. You turn down a shift you don't want. You let a sale end without buying anything, just to prove to yourself that you can. It's small. It's almost nothing. But it's the first time in years that a decision belonged entirely to you. This is survival power. You can keep yourself alive, but you still flinch every time an unexpected bill lands in your inbox. Derek buys a boat that summer. He posts about it constantly. You notice he never posts about the payments. Rule number 2. Relief is not the same thing as freedom, but it's the only road that leads there. If you're still watching, you already know the difference between people who talk about money and people who quietly build something with it. That's exactly what this channel is for, so if any of this is landing, subscribe now, because the next levels are where it stops being about surviving and starts being about choosing. Choice power looks boring from the outside. You're not buying anything impressive. You're doing something rarer. You're leaving money alone. It sits in an account and does nothing, and doing nothing is the hardest financial skill anyone ever learns. You start reading the fine print on things. You start asking what a fee is actually for before you pay it. People around you spend their raises before the direct deposit even clears. You don't. Not because you're better than them. Because you finally understand that a raise you spend immediately was never really a raise at all. Derek gets a promotion and immediately upgrades everything: apartment, car, watch. You get the same promotion and change almost nothing anyone can see. He asks you, half joking, half not, why you're still driving that old thing when you could afford better. You say you can afford better. That's exactly why you're not buying it yet. Rule number 3. The people who need to broadcast their money are usually the ones still negotiating with their fear. Something shifts again. Not in your bank app. In your questions. You stop asking how much something costs and start asking what it does. Somewhere in that shift, a small amount of your money starts working without you. Not much. A modest account that grows a little every quarter, quietly, without asking permission. The first time you see it earn more in a month than you contributed, something rearranges in your chest. It's not excitement exactly. It's closer to recognition, like meeting a version of your future that's been waiting for you to show up. This is leverage power. Time is now doing labor that used to belong entirely to your hands. Derek finds out you've been investing and laughs it off as boring. Boring, in front of you, at his own housewarming party, standing in a kitchen he's still paying off. You don't correct him. Some things don't need defending. Rule number 4, money that works while you sleep eventually stops caring whether anyone finds it interesting. There's a version of you now that other people can't quite read. You still answer emails fast. You still hold doors. But you've stopped explaining your choices to people who never had to make the ones you did. Your wealth grows, and strangely, your visibility shrinks. You wear the same jacket to 3 different meetings and nobody notices because nobody's actually looking at the jacket anymore. They're looking at how calm you are while everyone else is negotiating. A coworker corners you at a conference and says, only half joking, that you must be rich, given how relaxed you always seem. You say nothing. You just let the silence answer for you. This is silent power. It doesn't need a witness. It doesn't perform. It simply exists, the same way gravity exists, whether or not anyone in the room believes in it. Derek isn't in this story anymore. Somewhere around the last level, his story quietly stopped intersecting with yours, and neither of you noticed the exact moment it happened. Rule number 5. Real power stops needing an audience the moment it stops needing approval. Now go back to that glass room. The one where everyone waited for you to speak first. You already know what happened between then and now because you just lived through it, level by level, decision by decision. Nobody in that room knows about the $9 late fee. Nobody knows about the boat Derek bought or the jacket you wore 3 times in 1 week without a single person clocking it. They just see a person who isn't rushing, isn't performing, isn't negotiating from fear. That calm you're feeling right now is an emptiness. People love to say that money changes you, that the top is lonely, that something always gets lost along the way. Nothing got lost. You just stopped needing things you used to think you couldn't live without: approval, urgency, permission. What's left standing in that room is not a smaller version of you. It's the first version of you that never had to ask anyone if it was allowed to exist exactly as it is. This is the final rule. It was never really about money at all. Power was never about how much you have. It was always about how little you need. Somewhere between the $9 late fee and the room where everyone waits for you to speak, you traded need for choice, one quiet decision at a time. Nobody handed that to you. You built it the same way you'd build anything that has to last, slowly, without an audience, and without asking anyone's permission to begin.